Welcome to the summit. I am that you are, no one and this. And I can now introduce you to Jim Eaton. Welcome, Jim.
Hi, Susan. Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, thank you for being here from UK. And I've read your book, Daring to Burn, and you teach about non-duality, you guide people to see it for themselves. And you also wrote this book, which is absolutely a great book, lots of essays, and we'll be talking about some of them today. And you're about knowing yourself and all of it. So yeah, we are no one basically, but we also all this. So can you maybe talk about that?
Yeah, I think it's a good place to start, and it connects quite directly with what you've called the summit this year. So I've always been interested in bringing in these two different angles when it comes to spirituality. So one is all these beautiful teachings that we have of exploring direct experience to recognize that everything is being experienced. So like right now, you can just check out for yourself very simply that something is here, knowing your thoughts, knowing your sensations, knowing your feelings. And it's something so simple as that. We often never even ask those simple questions. What is that? So when we do ask that question and we start to kind of not try to find it as a thing, as an object, something to grab hold of, but we kind of relax back and soften into whatever that is, then we can very quickly start to recognize what we are beyond what we imagine ourselves to be commonly. And that can be a beautiful realization. And then we can take it even further, and we start to realize that whatever's aware of experience happening is in fact not divided from it. So we get this kind of wholeness, because as that witness, the one that's watching, there's still a kind of separation there, and then that can collapse into being the wholeness of what's here now. And for me, that discovery was extraordinary, and that was what I was really looking for in my life, through this sense of longing and lack that I was experiencing always in my life. But, and this is the but, after a while, you start to realize, well, there's this recognition, but my life is still, nothing's really transforming here. And I had the good fortune, it's in the partly in the book, but I have the good fortune to then meet what was to be my future wife. And we had children quite quickly after meeting. And suddenly, under the kind of pressure of being in a relationship and with children, like all of this stuff started to come up, all of these patterns that were unconscious, frankly. So there's this whole other journey that we go on that I try to talk about in the book as well, where we have to be really honest with ourselves. And we start to notice the different patterns that we built up over a lifetime of believing we were this separate, limited self. And that, to me, right, that's the real journey. That's really challenging, really challenging.
Yeah. So the journey, you could say, is embracing all that arises in life as you live life, like kind of invite it in or accept it or just be with it.
Yeah. You said all the buzzwords there, right? Accept it, let it in, welcome it, and that's all beautiful. But the thing is, when we don't know what's there, it's like none of that's really possible. And for me, I really believed that there was nothing there. Right? And I see people all the time, and they've experienced awareness and maybe glimpses of wholeness. And they say, no, there's nothing there, because it's unconscious, right? So you don't know what you don't know. And what I found is this what happened to me was the whole thing just blew open, and suddenly I was faced with like this anger and sadness and hopelessness, and this, I call them the abandonment feelings, and all of that suddenly there. And then yeah, you want to try and embrace it and try and accept it, but you don't want to accept it. It's like, no, I don't want to accept it. So then it's like, the way I like to see it is by meeting all this stuff. It's in the meeting of it, and the bowing down to it, and the allowing of it, although it's not really an allowing. It's more of a letting go of the previous suppression, which isn't a doing. It's an easing of a previous doing of suppressing. It's in that there's a transformation that starts to happen, because it's not necessary to get rid of anything anymore. You're allowing everything to be here. And that's where this transformation starts to happen, because what you are is literally transforming. There isn't the suppression or the need to get rid of anything anymore. And that's freedom, right? Because if you're still trying to get rid of things, you're still trying to avoid certain things, that's not freedom.
Yeah, correctly. If we like not this but that and so on, yeah, then it's like you're not free to just be. And yeah, you always have some kind of fear of what's coming up next, or yeah.
And even in, like right now, right, this conversation we're having, so what I really am is speaking as Jim, right? As Jim to Susan. So there's a playing going on with the ego structure, but you don't have to be stuck inside it, right? You can open to being the witness that's noticing, or open to wholeness that's being the whole experience, or then coming back to playing through the ego structure again. So it's not about getting rid of anything. So this inclusion. It's like an inclusion of everything, literally everything.
Yeah. I like in your book you also talk about the game Monopoly, right? It's like, explain that.
Yeah, because Monopoly, I don't know if people listening to this are familiar with the game. I think it's pretty international as a game, but I mean, we used to play as kids, and it would drive people crazy, like really crazy, like really angry, really mad. Yeah, what were you going to say about it, Susan?
Yeah, well, so it's not like you're just the little movers on the board. You are the movers. You are the hotels, the houses you buy. You are the whole game board. That's the wholeness of what we actually are. We are all of it.
Yeah, that's the wholeness. But we imagine that we are the boot or the hat or the car or whatever. And people get so worked up in that game, because if you start to earn lots of money, right, you start to feel smug and like, yeah, I'm made it, man. And then as you start to lose money, you get angry, and you start getting angry with the guy that's winning, whoever's winning the game, right? And it can really stoke up these emotions. And then you start to realize, oh no, but it's a game, right? It's a game. And then you can start to play it and enjoy it. And you still have to pay the waterworks. You still have to pay your taxes, right?
Yeah. Right. So it's like real life. And so real life is also a game, though. It's
play. Maybe a play is a better word. I don't know. Game. I don't want to sound like it's frivolous and
But
yeah,
you hear that analogy, like a play, or it's like a movie, and yeah.
I like the word play. I mean, I was an actor for a while, and Shakespeare is amazing, because it's like he includes the full bandwidth of the kind of human expression, right? There's the deep tragic situations and the kind of euphoric joyous moments too, and it's like that. That's the more you open to life, you're opening to the full bandwidth. This is what I think scares people maybe a bit about awakening, because often we just want the good stuff, right? We if this was the kind of zero level. We want all the good stuff, like the bliss and the kind of joy and all that. And we don't want any of the uncomfortable stuff. And so in a way, we're trying to cut out that uncomfortable stuff. But that's what creates the resistance and the suppression, because we're trying to push all that away. And so, you know, wholeness means wholeness, right? It means wholeness.
Yeah.
So in including everything, it's like the whole bandwidth can open. And if we try and suppress the stuff that's uncomfortable, we suppress the kind of joyous emotions too. And we live in this kind of very thin bandwidth. And that's what's frustrating. And it makes us feel closed in. And like, what's the point? Life feels very dull and humdrum.
Yeah. So it's like being open to all of it. The whole,
Yeah, all of it.
yeah.
I think for me, I mean, I've said this in another interview recently. I'm interested, what was interesting for me is I was never really into enlightenment, liberation, all these kind of big words, right? They weren't really on my radar. All I was ever driven by in life was feeling this kind of inner tension that was like really constricting, and this deep kind of yearning to express freely, fully, and uniquely, and sort of authentically, to allow my uniqueness to come through. And it was interesting because that's what that kind of led me in a roundabout way into spirituality. Not because I ever wanted to be enlightened or anything like that. That was never my intention. That was never my focus. But it seems that in this movement towards expressing fully and freely, it takes us into discovering who we really are, because it's like it empowers us to open to these difficult, uncomfortable sides of life that, frankly, if we didn't have the support of being, then maybe we wouldn't be able to do that. We wouldn't be able to go that far, you know, really opening to the kind of existential crisis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like we're supported by our own being to be able to welcome everything.
Exactly. And it offers a huge, like an infinite capacity to be with what life is. I mean, I often describe it as, you know, I love the word human being. If we think of the human aspect as the kind of more animal, you know, we just, you know, we want the territory, we want the food, we want the kind of mate, and we'll defend all of that. But it's like when you get the food, that satiates you momentarily, but then after a few hours, right, you need more food. So it's a bit of a kind of no-win game. Or you have the mate, you know, and then that happens, and then you need another one, right? So it's again another no-win cycle. So that's part of our drive. And then we have this other drive, which is to be accepted socially, to be seen through the eyes of others in a favorable way. And again, that's a no-win cycle, because people are always going to, you know, not like what you're doing or the way you are, or you know, you're never going to win that game. And so those two drives are what seem to motivate most of us in life. And so we're constantly going around this no-win cycle. But it's when we discover the being, when we discover the being, it's like suddenly the kind of human side can feel supported, can relax. It's like it's finally got it's true nourishment, the true nourishment that's available 24/7, and that is kind of super abundant. There's no shortage. And so the human side can feel supported and can relax and can start to flourish, supported by the being. So that integration, then we have the human being. I think it's a really simple way of sort of navigating life. I've gone too human here, to being. People sort of disappear from the human side into the being side. that balance, that integration of the two is really the sort of magic place, really.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's what we are right now. We are human beings, so we can't deny our humanness, right? It's and
Yeah, well, people try. they, they do try.
yeah, yeah, but there's just so much confusion, and
That's it. I think that you're absolutely right. It's, you know, non-duality as well as anywhere. It's so much confusion. People deny, you know, so like sometimes people can become more dishonest. I mean, it sounds crazy to say, but you know, you take on the belief that you've realized something, and then you've got something else to defend, right? You've got to defend that. You've got to create this impression of being spiritual and enlightened and liberated, and you know, it's so exhausting, all of that. Christ, you know. So just being able to encourage people to just let it all go. You know, you don't have to be anything. You don't have to present anything. Just allow yourself to relax and just go with what's here and now, like we're doing in this interview, right? I got no idea where it's going, but it's joyful to be able to let yourself just express yourself and listen and connect and see where the adventure goes.
yeah, yeah, the here and now, and you are what you are here now, and then that way you don't project I'm supposed to be this and not that, or it's just naturally happening. Yeah.
Yeah, but you see the conundrum when we talk about these things. So, you know, you said it nice, beautifully and succinctly there, but then the mind gets hold of it, right? I'm just going to try and be here and now. I'm just going to try and accept things, right? And then we become the one that's trying to be here and now, or the one that's trying to accept things, and then we've lost it. We're not in the flow anymore. We're trying to control being in the here and now. And so, you know, part of, I guess, my crazy job that I do is always shining the light. So it's like, well, let's see what's happening here, right? How are we getting entangled again into the separate self-identity that's trying to control, not controlling?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and I know the mind is very, very tricky, and you don't even realize it many times, right? It's like, oh, I didn't know. So it's nice to have other people sometimes shine the light on it. So, oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and so that's where the honesty comes in, because you know, sometimes you can see that you've got caught, but then to admit that you'd got caught would then contradict some kind of identity that you're presenting. So then you can't admit that you got caught, and then you get caught again, right? Because now you're not being honest about being caught. And then, so just being able to relax all of that filtering and all of that manipulation, that in itself is such a relief. It's like, oh, oh,
yeah,
oh, I don't have to be anything. I can just show up.
yeah, yeah. And this is the no one, right? Because we are actually no one. We're not this person we think we are, in the way we think we are. It at least it's like origami. You also have an essay about that, and it all arises from paper, but you can make all kind of shapes, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I wouldn't even, I would nowadays hesitate to say anything really about what truly is, you know. So we can be an as if a person, and we can be the paper that contorts itself into a person or into an animal or into a tree or a computer screen, you know. I like to keep it really fluid now, not really say anything about the way it is.
Yeah, because sometimes then we think of the examples, maybe analogies, and hold on to them, and then it becomes another structure or map. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So really being able to play with the structures and the maps, seeing them as useful tools, um, but not being wedded to them, you know, not becoming identified with them. yeah, they're very helpful. Like, look, we're using these structures now, these words we're using help us to communicate, sometimes not. But the maps and the structures are very, very helpful. But when we become identified with them, they can be a real barrier.
Mhm.
So the invitation is always to include the mind, like we include everything, but also to be able to go beyond the mind. Like here and now, we can just drop the mind and just be here and now. And I can just let it go and not know anything conceptually here now.
Yeah, yeah. And it's the fool, right? You have another essay about the fool, which I like.
Yeah, I love the
But again, it's another word, and but it is like just that open-heartedness where you
yeah.
just, okay, I'm just here now and I know nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So the fool can really say that.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a, you know, like I think I mentioned, like the kings and queens used to always consult with the fool, because
Mm.
everyone else would have to uh, be careful what they say, right? Because if you say the wrong thing, you might lose your head, or lose your position in the court, right? But the fool, because they have no responsibility, they can just say things as they really are, but under the pretense that they're just pretending. And so, you know, they can get away with being really, really direct.
Mhm.
So the kind of fool's wisdom is often a very wise character in Shakespeare. And I also love the image on the tarot card of the fool with this kind of, he's just walking along like this. And he was just sort of walking off the edge of a cliff, but he's still like this. It's like he's okay. It's okay to walk off the edge of the cliff, which is a kind of symbol of the fear of letting go of the conceptual mind and being here with nothing.
Yeah,
Can I be here with nothing?
right, because it is kind of like you're living at the edge all the time, right? In a way, when you're like so open, where
Yeah.
it just seems so unknown and so uncertain.
Yeah, that's the truth. Nobody knows what will happen next. I've got no idea.
Yeah.
That's the truth, but it's a terrifying truth to really acknowledge. So we kind of pretend that we do know. And then, you know, if enough people pretend that they do know, then you see people pretending that they know, and you think that they do know, so then you have to pretend that you know too. And then we're all pretending, which is, you know, not far from where we are now in life.
Yeah.
So it's actually nice. The fool again can put their hand up and say, I have no idea.
Mhm.
And it's like giving an invitation for other people. Oh, look, there's someone who's openly acknowledging that they don't know. Oh, maybe I can allow myself to drop my guard, drop my pretense, and say, oh, I don't know either. And, you know, so that's another aspect of the fool as well. You can invite that in others. But
Yeah.
we don't know.
Yeah, and there's like some very subtle fear in us, in all of us. I think that fear also, creates a lot of this lack and longing. There's just something in us. And do you think it's there because we never really opened up to what we are?
Yeah, it's a great question. What creates that fear? My sense of it is, you know, like when we're conceived, right, we're just unconscious. It's just unconsciousness, and there's a development is in our kind of human story, if you like.
Mhm.
But at some point, um, we get to this point, usually about 3 years old, where we start to see ourselves as an object in the world. So then we become aware of how we appear to others. So this is the crucial. So we can be aware of ourselves as existing as a body even. But it's around 3 where this kind of understanding, you can look at yourself in the mirror and you can think, well, that's me. But then the extra level is when you realize that me, that's what everyone else sees. right? So I don't, when I'm looking from my first person perspective, I can still feel like other people might not recognize me as this small little fragment that moves through the world. But as soon as that comes in, then suddenly I'm aware that I need to win their approval somehow, that I need their acknowledgement, but in a nice way, like, so they think well of me. So now, and you see it playing out in adulthood. It's like someone takes a picture and we always look straight to our image in the picture, like, am I looking okay? You know, like we did at the start here, is everything looking okay? Because we want people to see us in the best possible light, right? Because we're always managing our kind of reputation, because that's how we see ourselves, through the eyes of others.
Mm.
So it creates this kind of existential anxiety right there at the age of 3. It's like Hamlet, to be or not to be. Because as soon as I know that I am, what comes with that, the predicament I then get myself in, is that now I'm aware of how others see me. And that's what causes that kind of contraction and that anxiety that you're talking about. So this is where, you know, humanity is stuck. And so the next developmental step, which is what, you know, your summit's about really, is realizing who we are beyond that separate self. And when we do that, like I was saying about the human and the being, then it's as if we're seeing our human character through the eyes of unconditional love that accepts what we are fully, completely. And so it's like we don't need to manage our reputation anymore, because it's seen us as an individual human self, is we see that it's loved fully, unconditionally, now and forever.
Mm.
Ah, ah.
Yeah.
You can be what you are without having to, this constantly managed version of yourself that you're presenting to the world.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I like how you explained that. It totally makes sense that it's already created back then, that subtle fear or protection that we, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I don't know whether there is anything, I mean, I'm a parent now and I certainly make mistakes all the time. And so when we're so small, we're so vulnerable. And so if you put that together with what I just spoke about, needing to have positive acknowledgement from other people, then, you know, 3 things commonly happen. And I fell into all 3. One is that we try to fix our parents. It comes out of pure sweetness, innocent sweetness. We give ourselves up and we try to take on the pain of the parent in order for them to be healed, so that they can give us the love that we need. Or we try and be like them, in the hope that if we're like them, then they'll love us. Or we try and be what they want us to be, in the hope that then we'll get the love, right? So this is how we abandon our uniqueness, and we start to become a constructed version of ourselves in order to feel acknowledged and feel home and feel loved. And most of us just don't revisit that programming that was set up so young, and we live it out for the rest of our life. And again, that's part of that secondary exploration, is diving down deep into these layers that we took on so young, and so they're so unconsciously bound up with our sense of identity, and really allowing ourselves to start to let go of that burden that we took on. We don't have to save anyone. We certainly don't have to save the world, right?
Yeah.
To let go of that burden.
Yeah. Yeah. Just if you can save somebody who's right here, right now, and wherever you are, you could say, but we do have that kind of feeling of, oh, I feel so helpless with everything that's going on in the world, and I can't do anything about it. That is a common thing, I think.
Yeah. So the invitation is always to turn inward and see what's going on inside of you. You can't save anyone. You can support. I would say you can support people in saving themselves, like in doing the work and exploring what's there themselves. So, I mean, this brings up the whole question about healing, right? What is healing? Healing, I would say, is all about offering the support to allow natural healing to take place. Otherwise, you're back into the identity of I'm a healer, I'm a helper. And that's a very tricky identity. Where you support others in their own self-empowerment, in their own healing.
Yeah, and it's like the identity of being something, because it makes it static too, right? There is that freedom of being no one. It's like, well, then I can be anything as well,
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that makes me think of like worldviews. So, like the way we grow up in our family, our culture, our language, all of that kind of imprints a particular way of seeing, a kind of perspective on life, a worldview. And again, many people remain stuck inside that particular worldview for their whole life. And so someone who might have a different worldview, although you might say you're being accepting, they're welcome to have their view, but on some level there is a sense that yours is the right view because that's the one that you've grown up with, it's the one you know. And so when you do the kind of explorations we're talking about, and you start to look into the mind and all of the structures that we've created and constructed, and you allow that not to fall apart, right? You can still use those structures, but you see through them. You see that they're simply inventions, they're creations of the mind. Then you start to see through your own worldview, and you start to see that it's literally that. It's just a particular way of seeing. And that, like you say, opens you up to starting to see through the eyes of others, all kinds of other, infinitely many actually, possible ways of seeing. And then maybe you can enjoy the benefits and the insights from those different ways of seeing.
Yeah, there's that openness about that, yeah.
But even there, right, then there's a danger, right? Now there can be, oh, I have the ability to see from all these different perspectives, right? And that's the correct perspective. So you see the kind of contradiction that we get caught in. We don't realize it. We think, oh, now I've got the correct perspective, which is this kind of multi-perspective perspective.
Yeah.
And then we're back there again. We're caught.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just like let it be, and yeah, it's like we don't have to always, oh, now I'm this, now I'm that, now I'm that one. It's like just let go of all that. I'm this, I'm that, I'm this and that, and then you don't fall into that.
Yeah, it's the playfulness, I think. It's the playfulness is key, because then you're not taking yourself seriously. Right. So then you can have a multi-perspective approach, for example, and that's it, right? You don't have to take it to the bank and sort of make an identity out of it.
Yeah, right.
You can just let it go, right? And then we come back to being here as we meet now. And again, now I don't know anything, and I can let it all go, right? Here I am. I'm the fool again.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Jim. It's and your website, so people can get in touch with you, and you have.
Yeah, it's my name, Jim Eaton, EATON.org, not .com, .org. Yeah, I do loads of. I try I mean, I love the way you've got your summit for free. And I do the same thing. I try and make everything for free as much as I can. One-to-ones I charge for, which I offer. But I do regular webinars, I do regular weekends online, and I make it all free. Donation, if you'd like to donate, then that's welcome. So yeah, if you go to the website, you can sign up to all of that and join me anytime I'm putting something on. I've got an in-person retreat coming up in UK. If anyone's in UK, there's a couple of places still available. And importantly, actually, I've got some online courses coming up soon, which I will also make for free. And I've really poured in all of the stuff that I've kind of, all the insights and things that I've built up over the years. And it's going to be very, very powerful. So if anyone's interested in that, then go to the website and you can sign up and register your interest, and I'll let you know all the details when they're ready. So yeah, thank you, Susan, for having me on. It's been really good fun.
Yeah, thank you. It's been really great. Thank you. And yeah, take care, and thanks for participating.
Yeah, my pleasure.